It's interesting though, when you mention mental health being out there, and just being so open and public about it. It was so different for us. That is one big difference because it was seen as psychotic if you saw a therapist. There was something wrong with you if you had to talk to somebody about your problems. You just didn't do that. And there were jokes about being taken away in a straitjacket, to the funny farm. I mean, it was a very big stigmatism to ever come out and admit that you needed help from another.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think the self-help movement, self-help books and everything else, I mean, I think that was a product of probably the early 90s. And everybody just really gravitated towards that movement because we finally had books of like how to improve yourself, how to make yourself better. And I think we were just very hungry for that. Um, I don't know that I feel like your younger generations are doing that like we did. The hunger for the self-help and improving yourself on your own versus needing help from another. Can you guys
I
comment on that?
disagree. I completely
Okay.
disagree because what is self-help with not asking for the help that you need? You also get assignments in therapy where there's books that you are recommended to read, and there's things that you can do on the outside time that not only like improve upon what you get out of any therapy session that you go to, that improves your life and gives you those coping skills and the understanding of your like reactions and interactions. That is all self motivated because you get yourself to therapy. So I think that all of this maybe is a love child of that therapy or self help movement because there are still self help books. Like I still have like I may not be religious, but I still got the book like Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing. It's very empowering to read those despite like coming from any angle. And that was on my own time. Atomic Habits is another great book that I picked up and I really love. All at the recommendation of a therapist because I sought that out. Like just yesterday, I finally am utilizing my insurance to get back on medication for like my bipolar and everything. So like I think it's that self motivation that is still present while still asking for help from somebody else. So I think that like therapy is in a way self help. And I think it did spawn from the like, okay, wait, there is improvements that I can make, but I don't think I can necessarily do this on my own.
Yeah. I agree with what Jillian's saying, but I felt like I was in the middle of both generations because it in the beginning because I was adopted, I was supposed to see a therapist and supposed to, and I refused to do it because I felt ashamed of doing it when I was younger, just because of that stigmatism and stuff. And I felt like I wouldn't even talk. I would just sit there in silence for an hour because I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I was really shut out for a very long time in my life, I think, because of that. I wasn't able to open up to anybody for a very long time. It wasn't until like my mid 20s when that I feel like the like self-development movement was becoming more and more out there that I was like, oh, I do I do need to work on myself. I do need like I'm not perfect the way I am and I'm not happy the way I am. And so I do need to talk to somebody about it. And so I still like probably I still haven't ever seen a therapist just maybe because of that, but I have had a coach and a mentor and people who have helped me develop like giving me resources like Jillian was talking about. And I think it's really important to like talk to somebody just to have that, I don't know, other voice because you can only have so many voices in your head where you need to get out of it.
And your head becomes like an echo chamber too. So like I could read all the self-help books in the world, but then at the end of the day, I could still be convinced that my cat's mad at me because it sneezed wrong. But then I like if I talk to my friend about it, they're like, dude, it's a cat. I know that's an extreme example of it, but like getting out of that headspace because you can absolutely spiral out of control if it's just you thinking about it. So being able to have that sounding board, I think is like uh it's like self-help evolved 2.0 in a way because you're the one doing talk therapy. It's you driven. They're just kind of there to help guide and like reflect back what you're saying and kind of helping you come to that realization without sitting there and being like, you're actually feeling this. and you're like, oh yeah, I am feeling it. No, you come to that with your own like recognition, I think.
Okay, so big question then. Do you have the self-recognition that everything is your work to do? Anything that bothers you is your responsibility to overcome, that we don't control others. We'll never control our kids. We'll never control our parents, our spouses, our neighbors. We can't change other people. So do you understand that your happiness is it's 100% solely resides with you? Or is that maybe where the entitlement comes in to kick your parents to the curb because they aren't doing something right?
But wouldn't that entitlement come in with the parents as well, being entitled to control like what you're doing and entitled to have you reporting back to them still? Like, yeah, there is an entitlement to take a step away and become your own person. I think there is that recognition of I'm not happy where I'm at and I'm going to go find myself, and having that pushback. I mean, obviously, everybody comes from very different experiences, but I think in a way that entitlement to control other people is a damning force.
And it's
100%.
like
It's on both
it,
sides. Go ahead.
yeah. I think that recognition came in and out the last like 10 years of like realizing it's 100% because it's always easy to fall back into blaming somebody else. And I struggled with this when I became like when I started becoming a leader at my work. So instead of just being a teacher, I became an admin and was having to lead other people. And I think that's when I more realized like, oh, it is on me, where before I kind of just fell in line and it was so easy to blame the director or the other teacher or something else. Where when I had to step up into more of a leadership role, I was like, oh, like I do have to take 100% responsibility no matter what happens on the other side, even if it is somebody else's fault. I need to take responsibility for my part in it. And I think that's a hard lesson to learn because it is so easy to blame, and it's really easy to just say, oh, it's the other person's fault. They stopped talking to me or something like that. I noticed that as this situation came up with my mom and having to find a home and her moving into the next phase of her life. And blame, I fell into that with the siblings in the situation, right? Like, oh, you should be helping, you should be helping. Why aren't you? But have I called them? I never called my mom's son. I never called him because like I did 10 years ago and he never picked up my call. And so now I'm still bitter. So I'm like, well, he should be involved. He should call. But then I had to look at it and say, maybe I should call him, but I don't want to. So I didn't. So it's a very strange place to be. And I feel like it's a lifetime of learning that what did you call it? Entitlement, feeling entitled. I think we're always feeling like, oh, it should be on the other person or something. I just ran into that here and I still feel entitled like it should be on him.